Sure did. Hey, what's up, Facebook folks? It's your old pal Schmucker here live at Edgewood Middle School with Officer Roy Navarro. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are we doing?
I'm doing pretty good this morning. I tell you, the sun's shining, and compared to all last week, where it was nothing but rain.
Yeah, it feels good to be outside, and you just got to thank God every day that you get to see that sun.
Yeah, and my grass is thankful that I was able to get a mower on it.
So, yeah.
But this video, all week's videos are being made possible by Rent-A-Center in Warsaw at 2588 Walton Boulevard. Call them 574-267-4400. Spring Black Friday deals are starting at $17.99 per week. That's at the Rent-A-Center in Warsaw. So, Officer Roy Navarro, buddy, tell us a little bit about you and your story.
Well, I grew up in Warsaw from about third grade on, and I went to Lakeview Middle School. Went Lincoln Elementary, then Lakeview, and then Warsaw High School. Graduated in '97. I've been a pretty big traveler for the most part. My dad was in the Army, so we spent a lot of time overseas and kind of had a chance to travel the world a little bit. Lived in Brazil, Panama. It's been a pretty big part of my life to kind of just do a lot of traveling. Love doing it. 21, kind of decided to leave Warsaw and kind of venture out to Las Vegas, Nevada, where I lived out for about 12 years, and got interested in law enforcement out there. And my brother and I decided to be both police officers. So my sister also works for IMPD there, so it kind of runs in the family for law enforcement. We enjoy it, and we had a lot of fun talking about some of our stories and protecting our communities. And so I come from a rather small family. Got a younger brother and an older sister, and my parents, they still live in Indianapolis, so they had a chance to kind of see us all. They get a chance to see us all a lot. It's kind of nice to get to see them as well as they get up there in their later years. But family's always been pretty big. Love getting together with my nieces and my nephews and my kids, and they're pretty much my entire life. My oldest daughter, she's gonna be 16 this year, and I got my son who's the fourth, Roy the fourth, but he goes by Rogelio or Rolly sometimes when I call him. And then I got he's gonna be 14 this year, and then my next two are Jarvis and Robert. Jarvis is going to be 9 in December, and Robert's just turned 7. So as far as that goes, big baseball fan, huge.
Nice.
In my office here, I know a lot of Cub fans in this territory, but as soon as you head up in that Michigan area, right, that's where my grandfather used to sell hairbrushes door to door in Detroit, so he lived like a block away from Detroit Tiger Stadium, so that's why I became a Tiger fan.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, other than that, I love running. I got done running the Indy Mini this weekend.
Wow.
So I'm a big time. I just love to run. I've run. It's probably about about 16 halves and probably about 19 marathons. So.
How far is the mini marathon?
13.1 miles. And then
it's not many to me.
It keeps me young. And my son is showing some interest in running. My son Rolly, so he's. I'm hoping that he can kind of take the family torch and keep running with that, because I know eventually my knees won't be able to hold up. That's kind of part of the problem. You get out there and you want to play baseball, but I've noticed that when I was younger, I could cut and move back and forth, and it's not the same. You can't. I can't do that no more, and it's even getting harder to even turn on a ball and drive it. So it's
we're getting old, man.
Oh, geez. Yeah,
talking to a guy that's getting ready to have back surgery, and sometimes my hands, I feel like I got arthritis in them, and it's like, oh, I can't grip the ball like I used to.
Yeah. And when you turn 40, there's something that just happens to you where you just don't know what's going on, and you're just sore all the time. But I got a great girlfriend. She's a teacher in Huntington, and she's got 2 great kids, and so we have a lot of fun. So that's pretty much about me. I'm just pretty basic. pretty basic guy. I just really enjoy my job. I love my job and what I do for the Warsaw Police Department. And being the dare officer has been a great honor and a great privilege. The one thing that I'm looking forward to this year, I completed mentor training, which is going to give me the opportunity to train new dare officers, and it's a very it's a very unique position. And with my language ability, I'm looking at hopefully doing even a little bit outside of the state, maybe, and helping out dare around the world. It's in 72 different countries around the world, and it's a program that's kind of dwindled a little bit, but I'm glad that we get a chance to talk about it today, because it really has taken a different look at how we present and educating our kids about drugs and violence in our communities. So one thing that I can tell you is that this has been just my absolute dream job. I thought about becoming a teacher when I was going to school at College of Southern Nevada. And that's what I was looking at, getting my degree in, and then law enforcement kind of took me this way. And then I thought, how do I use my teaching, and how do I pursue my police job? And it's been great. So that's kind of me, just a big family guy. So
that's awesome, man. I tell you what, and we'll talk a little bit more about dare here in just a little bit. What's your favorite movie?
All time, my absolute most favorite movie, I love the National Lampoon vacation movies. I'm a big Chevy Chase fan, and I love those. I also like American Graffiti, back the first one, and just love the history kind of the cars and stuff like that. I've never really been a big car fan as far as like, but when you watch that movie, I just love seeing all those old vehicles, and some of the actors that have went on to some pretty successful careers, like Harrison Ford and Ron Howard, and those guys have when they started off there, and then seeing what they did with their careers is just inspirational to me. So they're pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And speaking of sweet cars, if you get a chance, this guy got a new paint job, or I don't know if it's a paint job.
A wrap.
A new wrap on his car. It's pretty cool. So you'll notice it driving around town. I'd seen it the other day, and I was like, "Is that Officer Navarro?" I was like, "That's pretty sweet."
Yeah, it definitely. Tommy Williams out there at Warsaw Tent, which is at car company, just when we came together and we collaborated on some ideas, and we talked about what we wanted to do with this car. It was just something that we wanted to show a lot of pride in our community. Policing, dare. I mean, it kind of, I think, all came together with the vehicle. It's really a nice little piece for the department. I just really am proud to drive it. So
yeah, and it's got if you see the flag over here, right over his back shoulder, it's got part of that on there too, does it not?
Yeah, and that flag has a pretty significant meaning. A thin blue line. We look at our communities as police officers, and then we're that line that protects the people at night. During the day, we're running to danger. We're just making sure that our community stays safe. We have that small little handful of people that that don't want to kind of abide by the rules, kind of want to do that and do what they want to do, and we do what we can just to protect our community and our kids and our family and our way of life. And that's kind of the meaning of that thin blue line is the police officer. So
yeah, that's awesome. So I mean, have you ever faced any adversity in your life?
Yeah, for me, there's always been an adverse situation that's always kind of popped up. That I thought a lot about what you were asking on that, and I, growing up, you learn a little about yourself when you're in sports and things like that, and you always hear, when you're up, enjoy your ups. When you're down, that's when you're going to learn most about you, and it just kind of does one of these lifelines, and you're just going up and down. And, as I was contemplating that, I thought about, life is kind of taken me down a few times, and kind of some of the things that I've had to face, and, just the last few years, just kind of things just changed with my family. And that was one of the most, hardest times, going through what I did with that. And I love, seeing that sunrise. Um, you know, um, um,
I'm gonna get this door. Hang on.
um,
Oh, now that they quit.
yeah. Um, there we go. The sunrise, kind of on this whole situation was, um, just being able to be a better father, and just looking out for the most important things to me with my kids. That those are the things that I look at. And I look at it with with all the kids I have the privilege of working with, especially with Dare. I know when some things that when you go through some troubles, and it's really hard to see some of the decisions that they make, and I take it personal, and I just think, why are you making that decision? We've had a lot of talks about what to do in some of these situations, and it tears me up inside when I see some of that stuff happen, and for me, that's kind of where I've sincerely care, and that's why I love my job so much, is it gives me that opportunity to hopefully correct some things or prevent things from occurring. And I look at that, and one of the biggest things is my marathoning. I love the challenge, and it's always a fight within my mind. How much can I take on? How much can I put myself through? And and can I stand and keep moving, during that, 13.1 or 26.2 miles, and just not letting this, affect anything, because, it all comes from in here, and I think that, that's why I love running that race, and thinking about, do I have, all the training that I put in, and is there anything else I could have done to make myself better? My parents, they've stuck with me through some pretty tough times as a teenager. And I tell my Dare kids, I wasn't the most perfect kid. I made some bad decisions growing up, but the one thing I always tell them is that you can't make decisions that are going to ruin your life, forever. Make some decisions, learn from your mistakes. And mistakes are our greatest teacher. And I look at some of the times that I could have really gone astray, and thought, this is a life-changing moment right here, and my dad, pulled me aside and said, hey, you remember when that happened, and we kind of laugh about some of this stuff now, but at the time you weren't, a lot of tears, a lot of yelling, a lot of, and so, I look at that as being a dad now, and thinking about the patience that you need to have with your kids, and the things that we need to do, remember when they're going through their trials and with their tribulations, and how I need to maybe better respond to things. And that's where I think, adversity's been a big part of my life. So
Yeah, I mean, coming from somebody like myself that used to kind of see the officers sometimes, and I know I've been on the wrong side of the law for more than once in my life, but it all went back to the drinking. And you talk about making the choices and then being able to learn from them. And it took me a long time. When I say long time, like better part of 20 years. I mean, it was everybody else's fault. I mean, it was their fault that I was drinking. It was the officer's fault why I got arrested for walking hammered down a public sidewalk. It was everybody else's fault. But then you get that kind of perspective change, and it's like, I made those choices, and I put the officer, or put myself, or put my boss that had to fire. I mean, got fired for more than one job from excessive drinking. So it's when you start to realize that, hey, I'm playing a part in this role here, and my choices have repercussions, which that's kind of what the talk's going to be to the Dare graduates next week when I talk to them. It's going to be about your choices have repercussions. I'm going to kind of share a little bit about my story. So, I mean, I think the authenticity, and that's what I love about you, why I wanted to sit down, because you're such an authentic and transparent guy that I think the kids got to love you.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think
Well,
that
I
I'm
do.
sure there's probably those that don't.
Yeah, and I have that talk with them every year. Or at the end of the year, that I'm gonna be genuine. I'm gonna love you guys, each and every one of you. Now there might be a time where you and I are gonna not see eye to eye, and we're gonna agree to disagree, and but when you do have an issue and you do break a school rule and break the law, we're gonna have a talk, and you're not gonna see a side of me that's not gonna be very pleasant. So because yeah, I do sincerely feel you know sorrow, because we spent hours with these kids, talking with them, and just and that's one thing that I can tell you, that it's just I'm hopeful for our community. I see the great kids that are here, and they're really pushing the envelope and trying and being on the ball. You got a handful, but I mean, what are you gonna do? It takes all kinds to run this world, right? So
Yep.
yeah, so
So what do you do or have you done to help overcome some of the struggles in your life?
well, we just got done talking about help networks, and DARE. And the beauty part about that is, we map it out. We do a big graph on the whiteboard, and then it starts off with a circle, and in the circle I write the word you. Um, and then I kind of break it down for them as you guys are, started off. You may have, just your mom and dad or whoever takes care of you as your help network. You might have a member of your church. You might have a neighbor. But as you guys start to get older, that help network will expand. And the one thing for me is I give them what mine looks like. Being that I have a unique job in policing, my brother has been a big instrumental part in being in that. Policing is not a easy job to do, and you need to be able to vent out your frustrations and just things that you see, and so he's a part of that. And he understands. He can give a lot of good insight. He's been with IMPD now for probably about 15 years, so he's been doing it a long time, a lot longer than I have. The next one, I talk about is my dad, being just that good ear to listen to, being able to, just listen and not say anything. If I want advice and I say, hey, Dad, what do you think? He'll tell me. Well, but he just listens. And, I break it down for him. I say, you don't want to just put anybody into that group, because these have got to be very special people. And these people are people that you're going to, respect. You're going to, have a special, heart for these people, because, these are the people that are going to help you get through life, and one thing that, that I go to is, I go to that my dad or my brother, or, I'll talk to, my coworker, Alan Danko, and he's a good guy to talk with, and just kind of, he's been a partner of mine for better now about 4 years. We work very closely, and so I mean, there's just a lot of good things that can come from help networks, and speaking and just getting it out, and just say, hey, this is what worked, this is what didn't work, this is what I learned. So that's been a big thing. The other thing I think is just having a purpose in exercising. For me, I can tell you that, a few years ago, it was hard. I mean, I had put on probably pretty darn close, about 200. I was up to 245 pounds. Now down to 185, and it's been a big change, for me, and just thinking about what I put into my body, things, and just having a good clear mind, and just thinking about what what I need to do to just keep making myself better, and and it's just, I look at that from my attitude is so much better when I'm running, and it's, I can do my job a lot better. My kids are happier because I'm happy,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. So you got to have some kind of way to channel all your frustration out, and another big part is wrestling. My brother and I, we wrestled for a while, and I coach wrestling here at Edgewood, and it's a great channel to vent out frustration. I love to draw, and that's the other thing. If I can draw as half as good as my son, no, he's just awesome at doing it. But we sit there, we'll have little competitions on who can draw, and so there's a couple different things that I do that have been just phenomenal for me to kind of. I also like to journal, diary, kind of like what I was feeling one day, and just kind of thinking about um, just getting out there and talking with good people, just around and doing service. That's huge. I had a friend that told me, if you can watch TV, it might make you happy for an hour. You could go out and spend, just go and take a drive, and that might last for a couple hours. But he's like, when you want to find true happiness and you want to be happy forever, go out and help people. And that was something that I took to heart. And so, if I'm out and about and I see someone that's in need, I'll take whatever opportunity I can to help. And that's something that I really love to do, because it just makes me the most happy. So,
and that kind of leads into a couple of our next questions here. But I mean, who or what would you say inspires and encourages you?
The biggest thing that for me is that I can truly aspire to is, God, of course. That's been something that I look at things that, I've done and with my life, and I can only thank, the man upstairs for that, because it's been a very odd career I've had, and I'm looking at all the fun things I've been able to do, and a lot of the, especially working in Las Vegas, you get the chance to work with a lot of different, movie stars, and and working with a lot of presidents, as they come in for, big, rallies for, the campaigns and things like
Mm-hmm.
that, so, and just meeting some of these celebrity. The other thing I forgot to tell you is I love to cook. This
Nice.
big time. I love to cook for the teachers. I heard twice a year. I do. We do. They like my Latin fusion cooking, so we do guacamole, we do the chicken, we do the barbacoa, we do all these different dishes here, and it's a huge undertaking for these teachers. But to see their face and their smile, you put those two elements, food and people, together, and you're always going to have a great time. And so, I had a chance to do security for Bobby Flay one time, and he has a restaurant at Caesar's Palace called Mesa Grill, and just to sit there and watch him cook, and it was just like he was right here, and just to watch him cook, and just watch one of the great ones just work, it was phenomenal. And so that's kind of where my passion came from, for cooking. And then the other one I had a chance to do a lot with was Gordon Ramsay. Gordon opened up 2 restaurants there at Paris, and he was looking at a spot there at Caesars, and I got a call from my boss one day and said, "Hey, I got a celebrity you need to escort, and he's going to be over in the Roman Plaza, which is going to be out front of Caesars." And he's like, he needs to get from Caesars to the Paris. And so I said, "Who has it?" He's like, "Oh, Gordon Ramsay." I said, "Oh, okay, we'll get him there." And so it was quite the, he's a really nice guy, just a nice, person. He's nothing like on TV, but he just a very fun couple minutes I got to spend with him, and just, it just sparks my interest. And I think, to this day, I don't know if I would have gotten as crazy into cooking as I am now, but I thought, if I would have gone into policing, I think culinary arts would have been something I would have loved to do, because I love that dynamic when you go into like a real good restaurant, and you see those guys work in the past, and you see those chefs and the sous chefs, and all those people working together to put out a meal that is just going to knock your socks off. It's a good time to watch. So it's something of beauty. So if you ever get a chance to do that and just see that, it's just something that I will never forget. It's just a great experience. So
That's great. So
yeah.
I'm going to ask here, but
Mm-hmm.
because I know somebody, like when you see a celebrity, you kind of get that, like that giddiness inside of you,
Yeah.
like, oh man, this is
Uh-huh.
like, do officers get that? I mean, sure, they got the calm, collective demeanor out front, like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like,
You know,
but,
there's been some people that you stay very professional on. I've had a chance to do some presidential escorts with Clinton, George Bush a couple times, and then Obama. And I'd have to say, just no, it was very professional. It was one of those things that you kind of, you don't you're there to do a job, and it's very one of the ones that you have to get in the game set, the game mindset, and you're just ready to go. The few times that I've you know it's been kind of funny, but Joey Chestnut, the world hot dog eating, yeah. So I'm a big fan of watching him eat. I don't know. It's just something about a guy who can eat, I don't know, 100 hot dogs in 15 minutes or whatever. But I don't know if you remember that show, Can You Beat Shaq or whatever.
Yeah.
And you'd come in, you try to take Shaq on, and well, he tried taking Joey Chestnut on at a hot dog eating championship over there at Caesars, and just to watch the Shaquille O'Neal do his thing, it was just funny. I mean, I was kind of giggling that one because it just. He came out, doing that, and then all of a sudden you see him wearing these like pink shorts with this gold, and it said Shaq on the back, and I thought, this is, what am I doing here? It just was just laughing, and I was escorting Joey up back to his room, and I said, so what do you do when you have all that hot dogs in your gut? And he's like, well, there's gonna be a big water drinking day, he told me. So I just drink water and water and water and try to get everything to cycle through. So, and I'm just like, man, I just don't know how you would do that. I mean, that's a lot of hot dogs.
Well, and you look at the guy too. I mean,
Yeah.
he's all maybe like 130 pounds,
Yeah.
soaking wet.
Yeah.
It's like, where in the world do you put it?
Yeah. So, I mean, we all have talent, and some people have that talent and get, I wish I could get paid to eat a bunch of hot dogs, but unfortunately, I don't think that would go very well.
I mean, I love watching Man versus Food.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very good.
It's one of my favorite shows.
Yeah, but I mean, other than that, I mean, the only one that I've kind of thought, I wasn't a big fan of, and it was Mariah Carey. She kind of was very interesting in her escort. She was an hour and a half late, and so we were kind of waiting, and I'm like looking at when is this bus gonna get here? And she kind of was a little bit on the mean side, so I was like, oh, okay, let's get this done and get her out of here. So. But I mean, yeah, it just is, when you meet these people, you see definitely that they're normal people, and and you can enjoy the fact that they're celebrities, but yeah, they just want to have their time with their friends. They want to be able to be with their families just as much, and you see that just with how they show up and their entourages and stuff like that. So it's a pretty it's been a rewarding career in that sense that I didn't get starstruck, so I was always kind of like, well, let's get this job done, let's get moving. So yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of fun. I think my most favorite time though, and I'll have to tell you, is that when Lionel Richie got on.
Oh, I love some Lionel.
Yeah. I was sitting there thinking about dancing on the ceiling, so. Yeah, but yeah, it was cool. He was a lot of fun to do the escort. Just one of the most nicest and sincere guys. And before Prince passed away, he had a club over at the Rio, and that was just surprising how small he was. I mean, seriously, he was.
You got to meet Prince?
Yeah, we did his escort from his makeup room to the stage, and yeah, he had that. I think it's a 4120 or 9120. It's one of those, and it wasn't a long running club. It was just a very small window that he had it there at the Rio. And so yeah, I mean, it's been a great time to meet with some of these people, and that they're human, just people that are just so remarkable. And then you have tragedy that happens, and especially with Prince. I mean, the pain, and I can only imagine what he would go through at night, and just but it's something that we idolize them, and yet they're just like us.
Yeah, and that's I mean, that's one of the great things about doing these videos. You get a chance to sit down with people, and I tell you, there's something that I can't really explain that happens when you just start talking to people. And I mean, I got a list of questions here that everybody knows. I got the famous green notepad, but there's just something special that happens when you just start having a conversation with people. And I mean, people are just people. I mean, they're real, they're raw, they're authentic, and whether it's you today or Courtney tomorrow or JMO on Wednesday, I mean, it's fun to me to sit down and listen to people's stories and get a glimpse and let other people see like who these people are. I mean, you talk about escorting Prince, and my sister and I are huge Prince fans,
Yeah.
and but yet you're such a real guy, and it's like I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you just got to really just appreciate, their talent, and you got to appreciate the things that they do for, this, our world and what, entertainment we get out of it. But yeah, they are just sincerely straight up, just people. So,
And well, I mean, especially you think about somebody like Prince. I mean, the
yeah.
guy was a Jehovah's Witness, so you
Hmm.
think, I mean, they got to go around knocking door to door. I can't
Hmm.
imagine what I would think if I opened my door and
And
Prince
see,
is.
yeah.
Have you heard the good news
Yeah.
that you're awesome at guitar?
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Yep.
But so anyway, moving on here.
Hmm.
What motivated you to want to become a dare officer or an officer in general?
Yeah, it wasn't my first pick in career. Actually, when I lived out in Las Vegas, I worked in as a mortician. Yeah, believe it or not, I went into that first, thinking that and I worked for a funeral home out there for about 5 years. And what makes Vegas unique is that you don't have a removal staff for the coroner's office. So when we get a coroner's call in Las Vegas, they will come out, they'll do their investigation. But what happens is, what makes this unique is that the funeral homes are on what they call a rotation. And so you have a funeral home that will come out, pick up the remains, and they'll either take it back to the funeral home or to the coroner's office, and then the remains will get to their final resting spot from there. But 5 years doing this, and doing and working every single condition, known to man out there, colds, I would have to go up to the mountains if they found anybody up there, and it'd be snowing up there, and you'd come back into the valley, and it's just a nice, um, a nice day. And anyways, we would, I got to be just a lot of good friends came up from working that job. It was one that I got to be friends with a lot of homicide detectives and police officers, and so my interest started kind of peaking. I was like, what is it you guys do? And then my brother came out and lived with me for a summer. He wanted to get out of Warsaw, and so we got talking one night and said, what are you going to do for when you go back to college and when you go back to Indiana after the summer? And he's like, I'm going to finish and I'm going to go to Indy Metro. I'm going to work for Indy Metro. I said, oh, okay. And so I'm like, yeah, a cop. That's kind of cool. And so I get tired one day of doing that job, and I look over and I see an officer there, and I say, how do I do what you guys do? What do I need to do? So he hands me a card and says, you need to go to recruiting. And so he's like, you're young enough, you can still do this job. So I look at the card, I go down to recruiting. They're in Vegas, and I get going in the process, and I'm doing the written test, and I'm like, man, this is kind of a weird test here. It's about 1,800 questions, and I then come in. They say, all right, you need to be here on this day to go do our physical. I come in, knock out the physical. I don't pass it though the first time. Though that's the crazy thing. I had to come back and retest and redo. I was kind of like, this is going to be easy, but no, it wasn't. They had protocol and everything, and so I come back. I'm a little bit more prepared. And so I make it into the next part of the phase of investigation, and investigations. I get done with that, and all of a sudden it's just everything's happening, and I get the job. And the one thing I found out about policing, though, you have got to be 100% vested in your community. You've got to love your community to do what you do there. And so I, we at the time decided that maybe come back to Indiana would be a best option, and so we get out here, and I get into a couple processes out here. I get hired on by Napanee, and I make the change down here to Warsaw, and here I am. When I went in for my interview for Warsaw, they asked me that very same question: what do you want to do? And the big thing for me was I can still remember, talking about DARE, and that was one thing that DARE has been a big part of my life. And the cool thing about DARE, it's been, especially for Warsaw, what makes Warsaw special is that we are celebrating our 30th anniversary this year. and DARE has only been around for 35 years. Now, what's interesting is that the Los Angeles Police Department, who came up with the concept of DARE, they don't do DARE no more, and the reason why is they just don't have the finances. They don't have the officers, and it's getting hard to find a police officer to work that, so they've had to cut back on their program, and so Warsaw has one of the oldest DARE programs now in the country, now in the world, and we've been around that long. And so to carry that torch, going into the future, I'm excited about it. I'm thinking it gets us into the working with these kids on a positive note, and that's what I love about this job is that I can get down to their level, fist bumps, high fives. I think about all the little eyes that are on me when I'm walking through, and the amount of respect, and that's something that I love about this job. I could be out at Walmart or Meijer doing some grocery shopping, and I've ran into a lot of my DARE kids even at Costco before Wayne. So there's no place I can go where I'm not wrecking. I go out to dinner and hey, Officer Navarro, So it's good to see their faces, and that's part of the drive that I had to become a DARE officer was that the impact that I would have on my community. And that's the thing about policing. We're always reactive. We're not. We gotta wait for the crime to happen, to catch it, and here, this is, to me, being proactive. We're trying to, instill decision making, working on that. And that's the big thing that DARE has done now is that it's not all about the drug abuse resistance education. They keep that, it's been around since, 1983. But what makes it unique now is that we're wanting the kids to make better choices. And when you make those better choices, that's where, the drugs and the alcohol and the violence are going to start kind of weeding themselves out, and that's where I like the focus that DARE's taken on, is that, yeah, we want kids to make better choices. So, and that's why I'm here. So.
Yeah, that's great. I know I'm pretty excited about the graduation coming up next Tuesday. And I think you said you got, 5 acts from Vegas coming?
Yeah. And that was part of my job. We would do a lot of security for, some of these shows, and it's a great thing to, make contacts and things like that and network. And, it's a special Cirque Entertainment. It's a great company to work with. And, they have some great dynamic acts, and they're going to be brand new acts, and we try to change it up every year. And, it's something that I call it my DARE Cirque du Soleil show, pretty much, because it's something that, if you haven't had a chance to see one of their shows, the artistry is something that, will take your breath away, and the excitement, that you'll feel. It's a great atmosphere. So we try to bring a little piece of that magic to that night, and hope that the kids will remember their 6th grade DARE graduation. I kind of have a interesting reputation within the DARE community is that, all the other DARE programs around the country, they actually look to Warsaw, Indiana for the premier graduation. They're like, no one does it better than Warsaw. No one. And, I'm so grateful for our community being our, big supporter, and we've got some great people here that just want to see our kids do better. And that's kind of what I drive for, and I just want that, I want to recognize them. I want them to remember this night. I want them to bring their families out. I want them to enjoy the evening and celebrate their accomplishment here. So that's the whole reason behind my craziness, and I'm grateful that you're going to be there to address them, because I do have one, we have that one big speech, and the one thing I can tell you is that they've heard me talk all year round, and I want someone to share their story about their experience. And I always tell them, don't try to reinvent the wheel. You guys have a system here. Use it, embrace it, because what you resist persists. And that's the thing. If you are out there looking for trouble, you're going to find trouble. But and it's only going to make you tougher. If you can resist that that temptation there. And so we try to drive that into them, and hopefully that night, it's going to be something that they're going to remember for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, and I tell you, it's one of those where I'd be probably lying if I said I wasn't a little nervous.
Well,
Because I mean,
yeah.
I know when we initially talked, I mean, you'd mentioned
Hmm.
like all of the people outside of just the sixth graders that are going to be there. And I mean,
Hmm.
you got the moms and the dads and
Hmm.
like whatever dignitaries you invite. And I
Yeah.
think you talked about like the governor possibly coming and it's
Yeah. Yeah.
for the 30th anniversary. And I'm
Hmm.
like, yeah, absolutely. No pressure at all for a guy that's getting ready to have back surgery like 2 or 3 days
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's exciting and I'm looking forward to it because much like yourself, I want to prevent as many kids as possible from going down the same road I did.
Hmm.
And it's tough to try and convey to somebody that's 12, 13,
Yeah.
14 years old that hey, look, the choices that you make now could have lifelong implications.
Hmm.
I mean, you think about the stuff that kids face at that age. I mean, they got drugs, they got sex, they got peer pressure, they got bullying that's
Hmm.
happening like behind a screen, and
Yeah.
it's so tough. And
Yeah.
so and I tell you what, I've tried to wrap my brain around. It's like, what in the world does a guy that's 38, almost 39 years old, talk to somebody that's 12 or 13 years old about?
Yeah.
But it's like, well, I tell you what, don't try and reinvent the wheel, like you said. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm a firm believer that keeping it simple is one of the best things you can do. Kids don't need a ton.
Yeah.
They just need to know you care about them.
Yeah.
And it's pretty obvious that you do. So moving on here, what does a day, like a typical day in the life of an officer look like?
Well, for me, it's getting here. We definitely have our ups and our downs. We're busy. We have the mission of making sure that our schools stay safe. I mean, everyone is, of course, concerned about, what's going on in our country now with these active shooter situations, and we constantly are on the move with that. We are, monitoring as much as we possibly can to protect, our schools and, and to make sure your, kids get home safe, So, I mean, that's the biggest part that I really focus on is, the rest, we break it down into DARE next. I mean, I really have to, sit back and think, if I'm not 100%, I got to get 100% when I get in the morning and just be ready to roll because you are right. Kids will see right through your facade there if you're not 100, if you're not on. And so I definitely know that we are constantly trying to think about new ways of presenting DARE to the kids. We tried something new this year. DARE had been working with a digital workbook, and it thought it was going to be the answer, and we just had some bad reviews on it, and coming from a DARE officer that's been teaching now for it's going to be my 5th year. And that was something we would constantly have troubles with it, and so we lost a lot of time there. So I think, we were discussing next year is that we're going to go back to our traditional workbooks. So, I mean, it's constantly, working closely with my superiors, making sure that we get, everything handled that we need to. It's out in the hallways, spending time with these kids, talking with them during lunch. How's school going? How's home going? We do get referrals from time to time that we got to work with. So, kid will say, I need to see Officer Navarro. We need to talk. So, we do that quite a bit. And that's the thing about being a school resource officer, and this is what I love most, is that when we're going through, we have to go through a special school to be a school resource officer. And they kind of compare it to like a triangle. And, a triangle, it's got the 3 sides. And, at some point when it opens up, you might have to wear your police officer hat a little bit more. And then from time to time, you have to be a counselor. You have these kids that come in here and they just need an ear to listen to. So your police part of the triangle will shrink up a little bit, and what will open up is your counseling hat. And you have to look at it from, hey, come in, have a seat. Let me just talk with you on what's bothering you. And you want to be able to just help them get through their problems. You know, they may seem kind of petty, and afterwards you kind of chuckle about it. You know, like, hey, you know, is it really that big of a deal? And you're like, well, not really. You know, so we try to get that nailed down with them, and I just love spending time out here. I get to, you know, we get to go to the football games and do the security out there, the dances, and so we are pretty much running the little Warsaw Community School city is what I look at, because you know we have a rather large student population here. You know, you got a lot of buildings,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I mean we, you know, anything that needs to get done, you know, phone call away, and you know people can trust that I will do my best to get it done. So you know I just love, you know, like I said, it doesn't even seem like work to me. I love what I do. I sincerely just, when I come, you know, the time flies and I'm like, man, where did the time go? I mean, it just like that, it's gone, and you're just like, man, I'm just happy to do what I do. So
Time does fly as you get older, and I tell you, we're not getting any younger.
no, fortunately not.
We'll close with a real heavy hitter here, and I'm interested to see your response on this. But what is your favorite restaurant?
Yes. Yeah. Well, the few places I've eaten, Emerald Lagasse's place at the Venetian. Yeah, exactly. Man, there is that. I've had a chance to do a little dining over at Gordon Ramsay's, the pub at Gastro Pub there. You know, the one thing I'll tell you is that it's the fine ingredients of the food, and I don't know. For me, when I eat now, I kind of take a look at, you know, how they put all these things together, and I love how when you can go into a fine dining place and you see the waiters. You know, when I was eating at Lagasse's place, and the reason I say that one is because I had a chance to do it with my whole family. We had a chance to go in there and eat, and I had my grandfather there and my grandmother, and my grandfather passed along a while ago, but he was a migrant farm worker from Texas, and he would come up through the South and do a lot of picking and things like that, and you see how hard he worked at life, and just kind of, you know, he was a very humble man, and just kind of thought about what he represented. And so when he came out to Vegas, you know, they were coming out for their anniversary, and so we're all sitting there, and I'm just kind of kicking it there with my brother, and we were looking at him, and I'm like, man, you know, just because, you know, my grandmother and were here, you know, my grandfather and my grandma, they made some great choices, wanting to make better lives for themselves, and coming up here, sitting in this restaurant, and you're watching the waiters. You know, you take a little sip of water, and they're coming over and repouring. You get up from your seat, they're folding your napkin again. And the attention to detail. And then when they bring your meal out, it was just kind of like they would undome it, you know, and you would see it there, and they would serve all you at once, and just to sit there and taste the food and just see all the different flavors that would come up, you know, and that's something that, as anybody's ever sat down with me, I kind of sit there and I analyze what's in the food, and I say, okay, what's that ingredient? What spice is being used? And so, yeah, because I constantly, that's how I eat now. I look at what's being served. I look at the ambiance or the area, you know, and how inviting it feels, you know, and just seeing what these 5-star Michelin chefs can do. I mean, it's just such a phenomenal thing to watch. It's a thing of beauty. So, like I said, I don't know. When I retire, there's been a couple things I've thought about doing. I thought about, you know, going and wanting to manage, you know, a nice place like that. You know, I still have a lot of my Vegas connections that I just, you know, keep in touch with my friends, and you know, I don't know how long they're going to be there, but you know, some of them have already retired, or you know, some has passed away or whatever. You know, life has got its roads, but you know, I just love watching good chefs work. If you ever get a chance to go to like a real sushi restaurant, that's a thing of beauty too. I mean, we got a pretty decent place here, but there is one place here, Koi, over at Planet Hollywood there. You know, that guy is a sushi master, and it takes a long time to get there. I mean, just the rice recipe alone takes 3 years to develop, and it's got to be specific very detailed on how they do it, and your cuts on your fish, and where you get it from, and the roll itself, and how it's developed. And he said he took about almost 30 years, and so you got to come up with your soy sauce recipe. And I mean, it's very, very specific, and just kind of learning what they had to do. So I'm like, and then you got to hire apprentices, and they have to learn your stuff, and it's just something to marvel at. So I mean, just you look at just. So I mean, yeah, I mean that for that memories, that's why I like that Emerald Lagasse restaurant there with the Venetian. But you know what? Lately it's been a lot of gluten-free stuff. Like my girlfriend's gluten, so she's got a few places that she likes to go to, and there's that Rack in Helen's up in Fort Wayne. It's a good place. If you ever had any gluten allergic friends, they have that issue, then it's a good place to go because it's 97% edible for people with that
there's a lot of, it's kind of the craze. I don't want to say a lot of people are cutting that gluten out. I'm not one of the people with.
Neither am I. But
I think it's celiac disease might be what people have.
Yeah. But it's just good to, food I think is just, not the answer for everything, but it definitely helps. So,
it certainly does. I know I love it. You wouldn't know it by looking at me, but I'm kind of getting the dad bod.
Yeah, and I'm trying to find my dad bod off, because it's just,
For a guy with a hurt back that's been down working, not being able to work for over a year, it's hard not to. So, but all right, buddy. Well, we'll kind of wrap this up. I appreciate you sitting down with me today.
Yeah, not a problem. We look forward to having you next week, and I'm thinking it's going to be a great graduation.
I can't wait for it. We'll remind you again, today's video is being made possible by Rent-A-Center in Warsaw, 2588 Walton Boulevard. Give them a call, 574-267-4400. Spring Black Friday deals starting at $17.99 per week. Stop in, check them out there, 2588 Walton Boulevard, Rent-A-Center in Warsaw. Tomorrow, we'll be sitting down with Courtney Jenkins. She does some stuff with JCAP and some other things as well. We'll talk about her story and how she kind of got into that. So I'll announce that time tomorrow and let you guys know. Roy, thanks again for sitting down. Have a great day, my friend. You guys enjoy that sunshine and have a magnificent Monday.